the real breaking point for Infantino was this statement, although I say statements, it could actually be a resignation letter for all intents and purposes, by FIFA's Chief Operating Officer Kevin Lamour, who accused Infantino of, I've got the quotes here, of deception. He said the scheme has the project, or is the project, of one person. Lamour, by the way, is a highly respected official within FIFA, especially within Africa and Asia as well. He described it as a unilateral exercise of power, and the most telling statement for me was this one. He said, we all are proud to work for FIFA, but that is no longer the case for many of us.
The FIFA president, Gianni Infantino, has abandoned his plan to sell off a significant part of the World Cup to private investors after vehement opposition from UEFA, other football confederations and even from his own officials.
Well, aren't we lucky that we have Rob Mullarkey from TalkSports in the studio to chew over that story and some of the other sporting stories of the weekend. Hi there, Rob.
Good morning.
So I opened my laptop after I got up at 3 o'clock this morning. First thing I saw was an email from The Atlantic saying, breaking news, Gianni Infantino's plans to privatise the World Cup essentially have already been withdrawn. That was a short week, wasn't it?
This has unravelled rather quickly, but yeah, no surprise. Although I say no surprise, you just never know sometimes what Infantino is going to do next. But yeah, I mean, this all stems from Infantino's highly controversial plans to sell the stake of FIFA sanctioned tournaments, including the World Cup, the crown jewel of international football, to private investors. I think we had this statement from FIFA yesterday saying that the vote would go ahead, the vote on whether you could sell these stakes would go ahead. But I think this was a rather lame attempt at, defiance from Gianni Infantino and from some of his closest officials in FIFA. But I think the damage had already been done. UEFA, of course, European 55 members had already said that they would threaten to boycott the World Cup itself if this plan wasn't withdrawn. And then Friday, we just saw blow after blow after blow for Infantino and this plan. The Asian Confederation, the 47 nations there, issued a statement condemning the plan. CONCACAF, the body that represents Central and North America and the Caribbean, had already put in place their opposition as well. Carlos Cordero, who is a senior advisor to Infantino, then resigned as well. And I think last night or later on Friday, I think the big setback, the real breaking point for Infantino was this statement, although I say statements, it could actually be a resignation letter for all intents and purposes, by FIFA's Chief Operating Officer Kevin Lamour, who accused Infantino of, I've got the quotes here, of deception. He said the scheme has the project, or is the project, of one person. Lamour, by the way, is a highly respected official within FIFA, especially within Africa and Asia as well. He described it as a unilateral exercise of power, and the most telling statement for me was this one. He said, we all are proud to work for FIFA, but that is no longer the case for many of us.
Could some of those officials inside FIFA not have said something sooner?
Well, Infantino, in some respects, is untouchable in just in the way that the hierarchy is structured within FIFA as well. I mean, to the extent that, which leads me nicely on to my next point as well, what happens next to Infantino? Because, of course, there is this opposition. We've got over 100 nations now, 100 confederations who are opposed to this plan and to him effectively as well. 43 of those 211 FIFA members are required to exercise or push for an emergency vote, a vote of no confidence, if you like, in Infantino. Whether they'll go ahead and do that remains to be seen. There is a Congress in March anyway, so there would be an emergency Congress if they push for this vote of no confidence, but there is going to be a March Congress anyway. And Infantino, astonishingly, has said that he is going to go for re-election for a fourth term of office. I just cannot believe how he anticipates how he can revive his credentials and his stock within FIFA to turn this around. It looks a lost cause, but he seems to have been battling lost cause after lost cause since this all blew up, thanks to Martin Ziegler's exclusive in the Times.
So many FIFA officials saying the only reason we found out about these plans was by reading it in Martin Ziegler's journalism. Could I just rein back? Everyone seems to agree that selling the World Cup to private investors is a dreadful idea. It's selling the family silver, all that sort of thing. I don't think many people perceive FIFA to be a benign, benevolent organisation with football's interests at its heart, and the ticket prices and the way that they milk the fans for the World Cup is probably one of those reasons why. What is wrong with the principle of having tournaments which you can invite private investors to get involved with?
I think that there is this perception that football is not there to be sold. It sounds bizarre because, of course, we've seen with the Champions League with UEFA that we have rights. We're swimming in broadcasting rights wherever you turn. But I think there is this FIFA is effectively a not-for-profit organisation. Let's not lose sight of that as well. And I think there are many within FIFA who cling on to those principles and those values. Infantino, on the other hand, I think does acknowledge those to some extent, but he recognises that there is a lot of money to be made for himself, specifically, and for the organisation. I think he blurs the lines quite easily, and he's ready to make that transition into turning FIFA from a not-for-profit organisation. Everything should be theoretically reinvested, but I think there is this line that has been crossed now whereby the objectification of profit has become too much for some.
Do you think there will be a credible alternative candidate that will be seeking to be elected instead of Gianni Infantino at next March's plenary, or are you expecting him to stand down before then?
Well, we thought when Infantino himself became FIFA president, there was this suggestion that he was a good deal for FIFA. He had good UEFA credentials as well.
And he wasn't Sepp Blatter.
And he wasn't Sepp Blatter or João Havelange before him, and other Juan Antonio Samaranch as the other IOC equivalent as well. I mean, you look at some of those names now and they seem blessed compared with Infantino. But, so there is this danger that FIFA can almost turn potentially good eggs into bad eggs, if you like. There are I'm sure within FIFA there are people like Kevin Lamore, who has got a lot of respect, like I said, with African and with Asian nations, this man who released this statement, albeit a resignation letter as well, who will have the admiration of others, but whether they would want to take on that poison chalice remains to be seen. I'm sure there are candidates out. I mean, we've been talking on TalkSport today about who could come in from the outside. Barack Obama's name has cropped up. But then again, you need to keep politics and sport separate, or there is this belief for some that should be the case. So whether going for someone like a former president of the USA is a very debatable thing.
And what future the FIFA Peace Prize after all this? Let's turn our attention to the Commonwealth Games ongoing at the moment. Georgia Hunter-Bell won the 800 metres. Yeah. And I know her dad, Andy, who's a TV correspondent for 5 News. He does the politics. He's the proudest dad in the world.
I'm sure he is.
He'll be absolutely glowing this morning. But what an achievement and what a story she's got.
Yeah, what a great story as well, because for those of you who are uninitiated with athletics, she's 32 years old, so she's a relatively late blossomer in terms of her career, and I think for a long time she's been living in the shadows of her friend and her training partner Keely Hodgkinson as well. An 800 metre gold title last night in Glasgow, her first ever outdoor title, and she's looking to make a clean sweep of gold medals this year as well. She's already got the 1500 metre indoor title from the event in Poland earlier this year. She's going for the European Championships in Birmingham, which start later this month, and also she's in the first edition of the Ultimate Championships, which gets underway in September. But like I say, she's been living in the shadows of Hodgkinson for some time. There was this hope for a long-anticipated meeting between the pair of them, but in Birmingham in the European Championships, Hodgkinson going in the 800 metres, Hunter-Bell going in the 1500 metres. But she took 5 years out of athletics, did Hunter-Bell, before COVID. I mean, that proved to be a very bad decision. Of course, with hindsight, Captain Hindsight would have said, no, don't do that. Great to see her finally coming to fruition at the age of 32.
She got back into it through parkrun, didn't she? I think one of Rosie's favourite hobbies or ex-hobbies.
And one of my part-time hobbies. I'm not as into it as Rosie is. But
just before you go, for those who've been suffering from withdrawal symptoms since the end of the World Cup, the first game of the Scottish, is it the Premier League starts?
Premiership started last night, yeah.
Last night? It's already happened.
12 days after the World Cup final, the Scottish season kicked off last night, and Rangers, who have a new manager, Derek McInnes, he was the man who led Hearts almost to the title last year. He and Hearts got pipped by Celtic on the final day. And McInnes then took over the reins at Rangers over the course of the summer, brief summer though it was. And Rangers kicked off their campaign with a 1-1 draw. And McInnes said afterwards that now Rangers need more signings quickly because that wasn't good enough for them. So it's all underway. There's no respite.
There's that old joke: the Scottish Premier League could go all the way to the first game of the season. Thank you so much, Rob. Really good to see you. Rob Mullarkey from TalkSport.